What's up, y'all? My name is Device. Today we're going to talk about Howard Hawks' The Big Sleep. But before we continue, please take the time to like and subscribe. I like doing this content and I would love to provide more and more. Before I get into the nitty gritty, what I'm going to do is show you the trailer starting now.
Can I help you, sir?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking for a good mystery on something off the beaten track like the Maltese Falcon.
Oh, that was a fascinating story. But here's one that has everything the Falcon had and more. It's Raymond Chandler's latest bestseller, The Big Sleep. What a picture that'll make.
You mind if I look at it? Huh. Sometimes I wonder what strange fate brought me out of the storm to that house that stood alone in the shadows. As I probed into its mysteries, every clue told me a different story. But each had the same ending, murder. Every instinct warned me to beware that something more dangerous, more deadly than I'd ever known before was in that room. And suddenly,
I like that. I'd like more. That's even better.
Although the story is often referred to having one of the most confusing plots in film history, especially at the time of its release, The Big Sleep was deemed culturally significant by the Library of Congress and was added to the National Film Registry. What the story is truly about is the process of a criminal investigation seen through the private detective eye of an unsavory world. The film starts with a first look of Philip Marlowe, taking on what seems to be a simple case of fixing gambling debts for a young girl named Carmen, the childish and lusty daughter of General Sternwood. But things take a turn for the worst when Sternwood's chauffeur mysteriously ends up dead. It sets off a long, twisted journey of blackmail, murder, deception, casinos, and even poison before we reach an end. And by then, not all of our questions are still answered.
Just to give you insight how convoluted the plot really is, neither Hawks nor the screenwriters, William Faulkner, Lee Brackett, or even Jules Forthman knew who really killed the chauffeur. When asked who committed the murder, Raymond Chandler simply replied, "I don't know." Entire thing, one more time. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, first. Window was now closed. Due to Humphrey Bogart's affair with his second-time co-star Lauren Bacall and his gradual indecision to leave his wife at the time, his at-home marital problems escalated even more so during behind the scenes of The Big Sleep. This often resulted in the actor being unavailable to work a regular working schedule unlike his counterparts.
Mayo Method was the name of Bogart's wife between the years of 1938 to 1948. They shared a famously tempestuous relationship which many have documented over the years. Many in the golden age of Hollywood were familiar with Mayo's documented jealous rages and excessive drinking, which could have explained why Mayo remained a scapegoat for Bogart's unhappiness at the time. Howard Hawks also didn't approve of the new Bogey and Bacall relationship. Lawrence Bacall was under a personal contract with Hawks, and he felt strangely paternal towards her more than others. In addition to lectures to stay away from Bogart, Hawks and his wife tried fixing her up on dates with other Hollywood bachelors, including the dashing Clark Gable.
From its very beginning, we're hit with a haze of nicotine smoke as we watch the silhouettes of our two stars introduce the film's opening credits sequence. From this point on, the film reels us in for what's to come in a story soaked with various forms of alcohol, murder, organized crime, and gambling debts.
If you can get through the story's complexity and double-crossing characters, you can appreciate the movie's dark enthusiasm, even for a title with a euphemism for death. Our protagonist, Philip Marlowe, seems to charm his way just out of any situation that his iron jaw doesn't allow. With shallow looks and shallower women, the femme fatale type of lady that Lauren Bacall characterizes, had a good job with, seems to shine just as much as our hard-boiled leading man does. Unlike today's detective tales that lead with action, The Big Sleep leads with stylistic sense of American pride drenched in American crime brought by the American dollar. Raymond Thornton Chandler was the American-British novelist and screenwriter whose book-to-film adaptations included The Little Sister, which later became Marlowe in 1969, The Long Goodbye in 1973. But back in 1932, at the ripe age of 44, Chandler became a detective fiction writer after losing his job as an oil company executive during the Great Depression.
If there's any lesson learned here today is that success can happen at any point in your life. If there's any lessons learned here today is that success can happen to you at any point in your life, kids. Yes, you too, old people. It wasn't until 1939 when Raymond wrote the hard-boiled crime novel we all love called The Big Sleep. But little did he know that the masterpiece would still be considered one of the foundations of American noir today.
Warner Brothers studio chief Jack L. Warner gave Howard Hawks $50,000 to purchase the rights for The Big Sleep. Hawks then brought the rights to Chandler for as little as $10,000. What did he do with the remaining $40,000? The world may never know. Yes, a remake of The Big Sleep was released in 1978, written and directed by Michael Winner, with Robert Mitchum cast as our new private detective Philip Marlowe. The remake didn't hold up as pleasantly as its counterpart, not that it had anything to do with the legendary Mitchum's performance.
So I'm recording? Yeah, anyways, Hawks' original 1946 version of The Big Sleep later inspired two more dark comedy detective tales directed by modern-day filmmakers, the Coen brothers for The Big Lebowski, and also Paul Thomas Anderson for Inherent Vice.
In an interview while out promoting Inherent Vice, Paul Thomas Anderson said that the success of The Big Sleep, despite its confusing plot, allowed him to be comfortable with directing a narrative that could equally be confounding as well. Due to the influence of the Hays Office censorship policies, which often doubled down on anything related to restricted sexual themes, the process of writing became more and more difficult than originally intended. For example, in the novel, Arthur Gwynne Giger is a pornographer who runs his illegal smut rental shop under the guise of a rare bookstore. But more than that, he was also homosexual in a relationship with his young and handsome lover, Carol Lundgren. Obviously, you can see for a film made back in 1946, Hollywood was under tight restrictions due to the Hays Office, and changes had to be promptly made.
During production of the film, the sexual orientation between Giger and Lundgren went totally unmentioned, because at the time, explicit details relating to homosexuality were very much prohibited. Personally, with me, I don't agree with homophobia. If you're a man, you like men, that's cool. But hey, I guess homosexuality threatened the sanctity of America and its butthole back then.
Months after the wrap from Howard Hawks' previous book-to-film adaptation, Ernest Hemingway's To Have and Have Not, Bogart and Bacall were once again reunited for the encore noir, The Big Sleep. Although the film was completed for release in 1945, it was eventually taken out for its original time slot and re-edited with extra scenes in haste to exploit the Bogart and Bacall box office on-screen chemistry.
Now, I'm sure you can imagine the publicity surrounding their off-screen relationship, kind of like if you compare it to the whole Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt thing going on a couple of years ago.
A critic named Leonard Maltin once called him the greatest American director who is not a household name. And I think I can agree with films like Rio Bravo, Scarface, and even Bringing a Baby under his belt. Howard Winchester Hawks was an American film director, producer, and screenwriter of the classic Hollywood era who still inspires many filmmakers today like little old me.
Now, Hawks was an adaptable director whose films freely roamed in the lands of comedies, dramas, gangster pictures, science fiction, noir, and even westerns. But what was his own definition of a simple, solid, good movie? 3 good scenes, no bad ones.
While Hawks was not potentially sympathetic to the feminism movement, he did create his own personal archetype of the woman he was attracted to, the Hawke'sian woman archetype, which was a portrayal of women in a more strong, less effeminate roles, and its effect can be seen rippled in today's media. Rarely seen in the spotlight of sunlight, in many ways Philip Marlowe can be seen as the knight in scratched armor, guiding his ways through the boozy casinos, dark alleys, and tight rooms where the bodies seem to mysteriously pile up.
From pornographers, gamblers, latent homosexuals, it seems the whole world surrounding Marlowe aims to take advantage of him. In the world of the Big Sleep, everyone and anyone can be bought for the right price, even if illegal activities run amok through it.
The only person the most innocent of doing anything physically illegal is actually the story's largest murderer, Eddie Mars. Well, that is, if you count pulling a finger to assassinate another character's innocence.
Now I gotta be honest with y'all, and I made to put my drink down. If I could have been the first brother to time travel back into the 1940s, charm Lauren Bacall into, having a little simple coffee date, a little dinner date, maybe more, you never know, never know. While at the same time avoiding the 100 of lynchings waiting for me by the time I got there, believe me, I'd be one of the first founding members of the Civil Rights Movement, and you can bet on that, sweet cake. During an interview Miss Lauren Bacall had back in 1996 with the New York Times in reference to Howard Hawks, Bacall one sentence:
I was brought up that way, except when I didn't tell Howard Hawks I was Jewish, because he was anti-Semitic and scared the hell out of me. He made me so nervous that I didn't say anything. I was cowardly, I must say. I was not proud of myself. When she was discovered by the director, Lauren Bacall was hardly even an actress, just a model whom Hawks' former wife, Slim Hawks, had spotted on the magazine cover Harper's Bazaar. Howard Hawks claimed that Bacall ended up in his office as a result of the misunderstanding. When he met her, he hated her high voice so much and told her to alter it to a throaty purr, and thus, the series of modifications began to lead her in her first starring role and to have and have not.
Alright everybody, now those were my top 10 reasons why I think you should check out Howard Hawks' The Big Sleep. If you really are looking to totally just soak in the American culture of classic American culture of the classic American noir and what noir was back in the 40s, you need to check out The Big Sleep. It's gritty, it's hard-boiled, all the characters have their own levels of deception. Everyone has their own motivations. You generally feel like, you watch it long enough, you might get a little contact drunk just by watching how many drinks Bogart would pound back. And believe me, if you knew how many drinks he pounded back, offset, I think you'd be definitely a little bit drunk, a little bit too much to drive. So, you know what I mean? For me, why I love the film so much is because it really shows the freedom of having a plot that doesn't need to be so tied into itself. The fact that Howard Hawks can take a plot with his group of screenwriters and yes, have it very convoluted, yes, have it very complicated, but at the same time, it wasn't designed to be a story where you sit down and track everything and need to know A happens for B and C and D. That's not really necessary. What really is necessary is that you sit back, have a good time, and you let the experience take control. You let the experience essentially become the plot itself. The experience was the plot. And that's why today The Big Sleep is treasured by thousands of filmmakers and at the same time remembered and will always be remembered in the legacy of film. And also don't forget, this was Lauren Bacall's second film, so gotta give her a little credit for the fact that she didn't really have too much acting experience, but she definitely did know how to look at a guy. So thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Help me grow the channel, help me build the channel. I love doing this. I love talking about the films. I love giving you reasons why you should watch these films. And please take the time to like and subscribe. That's all I got to say. Peace. Deuces.